What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. My name is Brennan Tassif. I'll be your host. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch-store. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll put the shorts up there, the full video, the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening. I love it. I hope you love it. Subscribe on Patreon, too. We do bonus episodes. I do Tales from the Restaurant, where I talk about celebrities I've waited on and whether they're assholes or not, which is super fun. Also, we do a pre-show banter for my other show, Cheers from the Press Box with Joe Dorville. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on over there, too. Make sure you just subscribe everywhere, just all over the place. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not leaving the mean comments, thank you for that. Maybe leave a couple nice ones.
Grab me a beer and grab him a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do. Hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do. Hang out with somebody and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I'll be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, Denham Demac. What's up, dude?
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me,
Of
Brennan.
course. Before we get too far into anything, plug everything up front. Social media, this will come out in 3 weeks. So any November
Okay.
shows you have coming out, anything like that.
Hopefully I will be booked in November/December. As of right now, I am not. But
I feel that, baby.
my friend Sean and I just recently started a duo comedy music act, and we are phenomenal and great.
Do
And
you
silly.
do music?
Oh, huge.
I didn't know
big
you were a
music.
big music
Oh,
guy.
Number one passion.
Really?
Being silly and singing with the windpipes is my number one thing. Brings me the most joy
You
in
get
life.
excited just talking about
I'm
it.
so excited, dude. Well, I was so ashamed of it. Back to shame. That
For
now,
those of you listening, before the mics went hot, we talked a little bit about shame.
we talked about shame. I don't know how to turn it off. And we, I think I finally, I thought that singing was gay. I was afraid of it.
2 minutes in. All right, here we go.
Yeah, okay. Should I finish plugging first?
Yeah, plug everything and then we'll get back to the shame thing. Because the shame thing, we were having a very good conversation before we started recording, but the shame thing is I like that topic. I like that idea, especially now you are sober now. So we're both in that situation where we can't drink and we can't take the edge off. But before everything, your Instagram, social media, all the stuff.
It's at Denham Demac. It's denim like the jeans, but spelled different. It's spelled Denham, Denham Demac, Demac. Denim like the jeans, but spelled different. Demac, like Return of Demac. Okay. If you guys want to book a duo act that is not stand-up and it's not really alt either, book us. You won't regret it.
You
That's
won't regret it.
You won't regret it.
Boom. Let's talk more about the shame thing.
Shame.
The shame spiral.
Shame.
You
I
get
know
this-
your name. Oh, dude, yes. The shame spiral is so real. Oh, so singing, yeah, grew up with 3 brothers.
Where did you grow up?
Suburban Connecticut. But I
Okay.
spent probably 3 to 4 months out of the year in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just feral children roaming around country Canada, dirt roads, shitting in bushes.
Really?
It was truly
What
beautiful.
brought you to Canada?
It was wonderful. So my mom's Canadian.
Okay.
So I'm half Canadian, and that's where all my family lives up there.
Okay.
And how I describe it to people is it's kind of Canada is 10 years, 15 years behind America constantly. So in the early 2000s, it was like growing up in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And it was terrific. There was no cell phones. There was no Wi-Fi. And the adults would basically get drunk out back at the cottage. And my mom, she would drive us probably 8 to 10 miles down the road where there'd be like a little like convenience store and give us enough money for like chips or ice cream. And then she'd drive home, so we'd spend all of our day just walking back.
What? Mm-hmm. I mean, as a latchkey kid, that's awesome, but also, it's in Canada. It's in the wilderness.
It's also Canada, dude.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, I'm not saying it from an aspect of like you would be like you're in some sort of danger.
Yeah.
I'm saying not from like people, but there's like wolves and bears and stuff.
Yeah, we would be raped by bears, not
Before.
by people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Winter or summer? I would assume summer.
So, both.
Oh, okay. Because you said 3 to 4 months, so I didn't know if that was a full stretch or if you went up for like 2 months in the summer and then 2 months in the winter.
It would be like 2 to 3 months in the summer, especially younger, and then like a month in the winter.
Okay.
Yeah. God. So that was amazing.
How long would it take you to get home? The whole day, I would assume. 10 miles is a lot for a
it would
kid
take
with
us
those little legs.
Hours. Yeah, and also it would be like me, my brother, and our 2 cousins. And it's not like we'd be progressing. Every 20 feet, we'd have like a fake gunfight with sticks. One of us would get angry at the other person. Like, we'd have to go back because someone left their shoe or someone hid their shoe. Someone hid my shoe. Like,
this is a genius idea by your mother, by the way.
Genius. And by the time we'd get back, they'd be so fucking high and drunk. And they'd be like, let's make dinner. And it was that was just life, man. But
the ice cream
simple.
probably, like if you get ice cream or any candy or anything in that situation, it probably doesn't even last you a mile.
No.
And then you're like, oh, man.
No, you get, and that's why we'd shit in bushes, because you'd get like an ice cream on like a hot day. And by the time, like 3 hours later, you just have the worst diarrhea shits of all time.
Yeah, ice cream in the heat when you're walking, that'll bubble your stomach right up.
Dude, I remember drinking a milkshake, and less than 30 seconds later, it came out so fast that my shit was steaming. Like, it came out cold. That's only happened once. I also didn't expect to get this blue so quickly.
I know. We did kind of go down that road.
I've already said rape and poop multiple times. I did not plan that. But if it's...
Let's talk more about the shame, the music.
The shame.
How did you get into singing?
Because
you said you had 3 brothers.
Yes.
So you thought singing was kind of gay, as you put it.
Yeah. We use the term gay in like early 2000s term.
Which for you was the 1980s.
Yeah, for me, well, for 3 months of the year.
Yeah.
And then for the other 6, right where it belonged. Or 9. I'm not great at math. But yeah, no, I think...
How did you find out you liked singing in the first place?
Well, my family was funny because, like, behind closed doors, very silly theatrical. And then I think my oldest brother got bullied really hard.
Okay.
He loves Star Wars. And look at your shirt.
Yeah.
And
I just posted a reel of me at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disney.
Oh, dude, is that sick?
It's one of... I went with my family, like my 2 nieces, my twin sister, her husband, and then my girlfriend Tracy. And honestly, everyone's like, "Oh, what are you, a Disney adult?" And I was like, "Yeah, if they weren't there, I still would have had it's awesome."
My first thought was, it's pretty sick that you have kids that you can go with.
Yeah,
but
it's
a nice excuse.
It was fantastic. It was one of the greatest because they dumped like a couple $1 billion into it. Like it's. The only problem is like the people that work there, obviously like every Disney theme park, they have to kind of be in character all the time, which I enjoyed because it's a lot of like basically Star Wars fans that just started working at Disney. So they know everything about everything. Like, you know, when you meet someone and they're like, "Oh, I really like Star Wars too," like the lifesavers that they use. And you're like, "You don't like Star Wars."
You just said lifesavers.
Yeah.
You sicko.
So like, but they all knew everything. So that was cool because I could talk about like certain things with them. And then you got to watch the reel when you leave here. They've got like, it's like a museum. Like they have all the memorabilia from the movies just up on the walls in the gift shops and stuff. So it's like Vader's helmet, like a bust of Yoda, like the Imperial Red Guard helmet, like every Stormtrooper variation helmet.
Imagine if you were like 11. Like imagine having this as a little kid.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I'm 36, and as we were walking in, you have to come down like a corridor cave thing, and then you turn the corner and you see it. I was crying.
You cried?
I cried.
Oh, my gosh.
As soon as I saw it.
so special.
I was just like, this is... Because I knew I've been a big fan of it for a long time. I didn't realize that it meant this much. Because it's like my childhood and everything, and it's like, you know, we're comics, so not everything was roses and sunshine growing up. And so it's one of those things where it like takes me back to like, this is my safe place.
Yes.
And as soon as, dude, I'm going to cry right now just talking about it.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, we did it.
Dude, I love Star Wars, but I'm a Harry Potter boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the books in the bookshelf, baby.
Dude, reread them once a year, start July 1st, finish on July 31st.
Have you been to Universal?
I have not, but when you saying that you cried, I think one day I'm going to go, and I would be surprised if I did not have that same experience.
Yeah, it's the Universal Hogwarts, the Harry Potter world it's cool. Yeah. Because my ex-fiance was super into Harry Potter, who was also a teacher, and my current girlfriend is a teacher who's also really into I guess. When we went there when it was first built, because I lived in Florida until 4 years ago. So we went as soon as they opened. Like it was probably like 6 months after they opened. We went there, and it was like you walk up to 9 3/4. You have to go through like a special corridor to get there. They have like this. They do like an illusion thing where it looks like you're walking through a wall.
And you're looking at like a screen?
Yeah, you look at the screen and you like walk through and it looks like you're walking through a wall. And then the train pulls up and it takes you right there, man. Like, yeah, you would have.
And they say magic isn't real, right?
It's
but
so
for
real.
someone to come up with that idea to allow you to live that experience, that is magic. That is the magic of empathy and imagination.
They do at Galaxy's Edge. They do this ride where you're, excuse me, it's called Rise of the Resistance. The ride itself is kind of okay, but the line, you're basically in a cave for like the first 40 minutes of the line, and you're like, this is kind of like when you do Smuggler's Run, like you're walking through like garages that have speeders and stuff, and you're like, this is awesome. Rise of the Resistance, you're kind of like, man, this line compared to the other line is kind of whack. But then you get into like where you're supposed to be and you're like, all right, now we're talking. So part of the line is like you get on a transport ship and you like walk by Poe's X-Wing, like the all black one X-Wing. So you walk by Poe's X-Wing and he's like, I'm going to fly with you. Like, and you see the animatronics and stuff and you're like, that's fucking, he's right there, even though he's not. And then you get on the transport ship and it opens up, you get caught by an Imperial Star Destroyer, and it opens up on the other side in a Star Destroyer. Not like we're suspending disbelief and we're playing pretend. You're in a Star Destroyer. They use an 8K LED screen to make it look like, in the movies how you can look out into space. They use an 8K screen for that. So you're like, you're
in space.
Yeah, you're like in space, and there's like 100 stormtroopers in front of you, all in like formation, and you're like being like carried like to the thing, and I was like, this is legit.
That's so special, man.
Yeah, so you gotta just save it. I mean, don't even save it up. Just get a fucking new credit card and go.
Yeah, no.
I'm the worst person to ask.
I'm not gonna do that. Because I think it will always be there.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I don't think Harry Potter is going away anytime
I don't
soon. Like
they're still coming out with movies,
dude.
They were done with the books 5 years ago.
They're
6
coming
years
out
ago.
with a new series.
Oh, are they?
They're gonna do a series of the books, and I am terrified.
Is it still Tolkien? Or
J.K.
it's
Rowling. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Tolkien did Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he famously also hated trans people.
So same boat.
I'm
Must
not
be
sure.
an English thing.
I don't think there's proof of that, but I'm pretty sure that would be the case. He's from like the 1920s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're bigots.
No, they are. All English people are bigots.
You heard it here first, folks. So let's talk about it. So
we were saying I was saying that my brother, he went off to school with a rat tail because he wanted to be a Padawan.
Yeah.
To a new school in 3rd grade and got incessantly bullied. And I think that like broke something deep inside of him, where then he got into football. And I love my dad, but he's not really like a masculine father figure type guy. Raised by alcoholics, all that shit. And my brother, I almost said dad, Freudian slip, who kind of raised us, he took on this like super hyper masculine approach.
Really?
So
he went from like gentle kind of like love Star Wars, grow my hair out because I want to be a Padawan, to like alpha.
Just internalized anger and rage and self-hatred, and pushed that on himself heavy. Looked up to like the shitty fucking CJF football coaches, and then he would come home and look at me and my other middle brother really and see him glaring right back at him.
Yeah.
And try to like snuff that out as much as possible.
We're going to be men in here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like I wanted to sing from the time I was like a little kid. I remember being in a car and hearing someone on the radio. I was alone in a car waiting to like pick up my brothers and being like, I want to be heard on the radio. I want to sing. That'd be sweet. And then for the next 10 plus years, every single day I got called gay or a faggot. And
For singing?
No, just for being.
Oh, just for being alive.
Yeah. So
As was the 2000s.
as it was. So I hated myself.
Yeah.
So the core things that I loved, I tried pushing down the deepest. The only recesses, the only things in me that survived up until maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I got clean were like the defense mechanisms I learned to basically save myself, which is be subservient, be a silly ass character or charade of yourself, caricature of yourself, and just be very vulnerable because it seems people respond to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's an interesting thing. One of my biggest defense mechanisms growing up was humor. Mm-hmm. And that's why I got so into stand up, because I was a depressed, anxious kid. I got bullied a lot, and then when my cousin introduced me to it, I was like, oh, this is invoking laughter, but I don't have anything to laugh about. But I'm like inside. Like on the surface, everything was good. Like we lived in a nice house. It was a nice community. You know, we're going to nice schools. But inside, like my brain was broken for whatever reason. And I would watch stand up and I'd be like, oh, I can laugh at this.
Yeah.
And so then I always related like humor as like a defense mechanism. So even when I went to like jail and stuff, you have to fight. But violence was always also a defense mechanism, but always the second. I would always try to make someone laugh to diffuse a situation before I tried to be violent.
That's how Tim Allen got through.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Growing up,
Let's talk about it.
there you go. Get it.
Yeah.
It's all welcome here,
Thank
Denham.
you.
It's all
Yeah.
welcome here, baby.
Yeah, did you see
I like
my
your dog.
face?
I like your dog
thank
on
you.
your
I'm
hat.
feeling cozy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're feeling it now.
I'm feeling
You did
good.
say it would take you about 13 minutes to fall in, and it's about 15-minute mark. So
Wow, that went by quick.
yeah, we're rocking and rolling, baby.
Cool.
Let's talk about it. So growing up, you did play football.
I played 9 years of football. Yeah.
Okay, so did you get into that when you were like a little kid in Connecticut, or did you wait till high school, or what happened? Because your brother, I'm assuming, probably pushed you into it pretty
Yeah,
early.
that's all it is.
Yeah.
My older brother did it, and then because our neighbor at the time, he was like I think he went to my dad and he's like, "You have giants. They have
you are
to
a big
be
guy.
linemen."
For those of you watching, I'm 6'1", 230 pounds, and you're making me look very small.
Yeah, I'm a big bone boy. I'm a silly Billy at heart, though. Okay, I'm a lot like John Cena. You know, the great gentle giant John Cena.
How big is John Cena in real life?
I think he's 6'2" or 6'3". He's
'Cause
not
they-
super tall.
Yeah, because when he comes out, they're like 6'5", John. No, I mean I don't know.
I don't know.
They used to do that though. I only say that because they used to do that. I've met Kevin Nash a couple times, the big sexy Kevin Nash. Oh,
Yeah.
And they had him.
into WWE. You feel like you would be.
I was really into the WCW, to be honest with you. When we were
okay.
kids, my dad and my sisters and I would me and my twin and my dad would watch the WCW. We were a WCW household. We didn't watch the WWF at the time, and then later, because it was kind of like that's the like real
it's the sellouts.
Yeah, and so during the Attitude Era, we were real big into the WCW, but I got to meet Kevin Nash because he has a house just outside of Daytona, and that's where I grew up. And I have a couple people, like family friends, that knew him. And I was like, "You are not 7'2".
Yeah.
Because they every time he come into the ring, they'd be like 7'2", 405 pounds. And then I met him, I was like, "You're like 6'9", dude." So I don't know. Maybe have you ever met John Cena?
I have not. I would love to though. Open invitation to John. If
John,
you want to hang
I know you're
out.
listening.
Yep.
Come see Denham and his duo.
I actually
Denham
think,
and his duo.
Yeah, Denham and Sean performing whenever you book us. I think
Were you into the WWF?
It was E when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It switched over. My cousins were, and my little brother was into it. And I probably had like 2-3 years
Of watching it.
Yeah, when you buy into
The whole
it,
Stone Cold
yeah.
Rock thing. That was the time
That
to
was
watch
for
it.
you. For me, it was like Triple H had come back.
Oh, I always forget I'm like 10 years older than
yeah,
you. Yeah,
I'm 27.
yeah.
Yeah, I just don't moisturize. That's like the joke I use. But no, it was like the Undertaker was at the end of his career. Shawn Michaels came back.
Yeah, so I was there not for the comebacks. I was there for the original go-round.
Yeah, when they were
Degeneration
like heavy
X.
into drugs. Yeah,
Yeah.
we saw Degeneration X when their muscles had degenerated.
Yeah.
And they had no more cartilage in their knees.
Yeah, because I just watched that the Mr. McMahon documentary, the 6-part documentary.
How was
out. It was really good. It was interesting. There were some things. I mean, I enjoyed it. It kept me entertained, but also there were some things where like I said, I grew up mainly watching the WCW, not the WWE, so I wasn't as invested.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting because my cousin was real into the WWE, and you couldn't help, because I grew up during the Attitude Era, so you couldn't help but hear like about Stone Cold and stuff. And then we would try, like I would watch it in my room sometimes, and I would or a lot of times because Raw was on an hour after
You had a TV
Nitro.
in your room? I didn't know you were rich.
I did. Big old box TV in my room. So Nitro would get off the air at 10. Raw would go till 11. So I remember we would finish watching Nitro, and then I'd go into my room and watch Raw. So I knew like what was going on. And dude, we would be walking around school like telling people to suck it. And I used to get stuck because all my friends, not even friends, all the people I knew, my bullies in school, who I thought were my friends, and that's why they picked on me.
Dude, I had the same exact fucking situation.
But they would like stunner me and like do the pedigree and stuff
Have you
to
ever
me.
been Sweet Chin Music?
Yes, and
Me too.
God rest his soul, Weston, a younger brother of someone named Kyle that we grew up with. He has since passed away, which is very, very sad. But also, he was the one who would always do it. He was the younger brother, but he was like the biggest bully of them all, which was weird. But Weston used to, that would be his thing. Like we'd all be on the trampoline and they'd all be doing wrestling moves to me, and then I would stand up and then I'd see Weston doing this, I'd be like, "Don't kick me in the face."
It was the same scenario with my little brother, who like we'd just be bouncing around and it would be him and like two of his friends, and it would be like me versus all of them.
Yeah.
And I would just throw my body around, and then I'd have two of them and turn around. And I remember my brother once just like kicking me so hard in the face, I'm surprised it didn't break anything.
Yeah, it's the Sweet Chin Music was one of the worst ones because it's just a direct kick to the jaw.
Yeah, it is.
Like it's not like a stunner where it's like you can be like, oh, and then you just fall to your knees. Because that's all the stunner is you just fall onto your knees. It's not that bad. But a Sweet Chin Music is just a legit kick to the face.
It's just trauma to this area.
Oh,
yeah.
It's making my head hurt.
Especially on the trampoline when you can get the
that
lift.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Fuck,
We used to
was
do that
fun.
shit all the time.
It was fun, dude.
It's weird thinking back about it. I think like, oh, it was fun. But I remember at the time like going home and crying, being like, why is everyone always like doing the finishing moves on me? Like, why don't I get to have any fun?
Well, when you came to me and you asked me to be on the show, and you were like, just give me a list of like a couple of your fun drinking stories. I'm like, so he expects this to be fun? Because if I was to honestly look back on like any of this shit, it's just me crying a bunch.
Yeah.
It's just me being like, oh, this is sad.
So the message I sent you is kind of the generic message I send to all my guests, but it's interesting because like you and I've had a bunch of people on who are actually sober, and it's always that same kind of thing where it's like these are all bad. Like they don't, and like I have like fun stories about like drinking and stuff, but then you look back on it and you're like that was pretty sad. Like that wasn't really fun.
Well, that's what it is. Like by the way, it was a great intro to the podcast.
Thank you.
I liked it a lot, but you're like, we'd get fucked up and then we'd have fun drinking stories. And like, I thought in high school I had the best stories. And now looking back, if I can remember any of them, it's like the moral of the story is always like, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Buddy.
I had a guest on a couple weeks ago, Paul Saylor. He's doing comedy now, but he's like done musical theater and he as a musician. He said it the best way when he came on the show. He said, the fun stories of my 20s seem like confessions in my 30s.
That is
and I was like,
genius.
Oh yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So I want to get back on track a little bit, and then we got to get into some of like when you started drinking and stuff like that.
Lead me.
Before that, when did you start playing football?
So I started when I was in third grade.
Holy moly!
Yeah. Third grade is when I started. I remember trying to quit like 3 weeks in, and my brother kind of like, we were in a road trip coming back from like a vacation. I like made sure that they were all asleep.
Vacation?
And, like,
Who's the rich guy now?
I'm sorry, man. Connecticut, you should have assumed.
Oh yeah, you did say that
yeah.
right out of the gate.
But I like whispered to my parents, I'm like, I don't want to do football anymore. And they're like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm like, I might want to do tap dancing. And they're like, that's also fine. So I'm like, cool. And then I get in, and my older brother, just like a snake in a Disney cartoon movie, like he must have been sleeping, and he just goes, you will not quit football. You will not do this to the family. So, so I ended up playing all throughout, but number one, I always sucked, and I'm like a nervous shitter, and I remember I can't stop talking about poop.
I know.
I'm sorry, Brendan.
It's okay.
Like, you got to put a warning on this episode of like
A lot of fecal talk.
a brown warning. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. It wasn't great, but it will do.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just remember having like very explosive anxiety before and in the middle, to the point where they would call it taking a DMAC.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was.
Were you the guy who would have to like? So I assumed you played offensive line.
Yeah. Offensive and defensive.
Yeah. So like in the middle of a series, would you have to be like, Coach, I got to come out. Like I got to run to the bathroom.
I would not be in a series. I would be on the line. I'd be on the sideline.
Really?
I spent 9 years on the sideline.
Get out of here!
Yeah.
You're a giant.
I know. Turns out we have a lot of giants, and I'm so soft that like no football. I just disappointed middle-aged men my entire life.
Because they see you walking out there and
They're
like,
so
"Look at
excited,
this."
and my older brothers were pretty good. My little brother was like a quarterback, skinny, athletic, perfect until he wasn't. And then I'd come up and my heart was not in it.
Yeah.
And it would just be like, fuck this kid. But I love my friends on the football team, so like it just became another place to be a class clown.
So did you? I want to ask you this because it's very interesting how many similarities we have. I grew up in a household where my dad is from Ohio. It's like the Midwest. Like everyone plays football. My dad growing up was always telling us stories about when he played, high school football and stuff, and how he would have tried to play more, but he was always so small, but he was like super aggressive and stuff. And then he has these kids, and my brother's like right around 6 feet. I'm 6'1". And so it was like, we're going to play football. But
Let me live through you vicariously, my son.
But before that, and I also grew up in Florida where football is the only sport that matters.
Yes.
So, because I say it all the time to people, whenever baseball is on, I'm always like, I should have played baseball.
Yes.
I am a 6'1", 230
you have a
pound.
great baseball build.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like 230 pound white guy is a first baseman. Like that is what. Like so, I was like, why would you put me in one of the most athletically gifted sports as this?
Yeah, in Florida. Dude.
Yeah, and so I remember, but to your point, I didn't hit my growth spurt until like going into my senior year of high school. So I was like 5'9". I remember in 7th grade, like I tried out for Pop Warner and I made it because it was a weight limit. I made it by 1 pound. I was like a short, really fat guy, and I would run around and say how nobody likes me, and I would cry and all this kind of stuff. And I remember the first 2 years I played football, I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks. Like, I'm getting beat up all the time. But you had to, you know this. And the listeners, I'm sure a lot of them know this. You have to play the part. You have to be like, no, I'm an alpha football player guy.
Yeah.
But that wasn't who I was ever, and it still isn't. Like,
That's amazing that you were able to play the part.
Play the part in the sense that I wouldn't quit.
Yes.
That's all I'm
I
saying.
think that's what it was.
It's not like I turned a switch and I was
Yeah.
fucking Vince Lombardi out there, or, Mike Ditka.
Were you able to take like anger or aggression out on the field?
Yeah, so a lot of it was just being not even taking anger and aggression. I was just being so exhausted by the end of practice where like you didn't have enough energy to even feel any sort of way.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was in
That's so interesting.
going into my senior year when I hit my growth spurt. And, like, a lot of the guys I played with, like, especially my junior year, we went, like, super deep in the playoffs, 6A, which was the biggest at the time, in the state of Florida. It was a huge deal.
Wow.
And, like, we almost made it to the state championship. So that game I was just like I was a backup for that season as a junior. But then going into my senior year, I hit my growth spurt. I was starting, like it was a whole thing.
That's incredible.
And that's when football became more fun.
Yes.
When I could start pushing people around. Then I was like, oh, this is way more fun when you're the guy that other people are like, ah, shit.
Yeah, when you can play the sport.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Game becomes fun. Otherwise, you're just watching it with very uncomfortable tights on.
And then I went to college and I played Division I in South Florida. And it was basically going all the way back to my freshman year in high school again, where it was like, everyone is so much better than me. This fucking sucks.
Yes.
And then I got my 8th concussion my sophomore year, and I was like, I can't.
And you were done.
Yeah, I was out. That was it.
See, for me, my heart was always in like the theatrical. It was always in the singing and dancing and goofing around. But I was already the black sheep of the family. And that was doing exactly what my brothers told me to do, or what I thought they wanted me to do.
Yeah.
So the idea of me trying to change anything to live honestly or authentically to me at all was so pushed down, was so unrealistic.
Yeah, that's got to be a tough spot where you're like, I'm doing everything you're asking me to do, everything I think you're wanting me to do, and I'm still not being accepted for like anything. And I totally understand that feeling.
Yeah, it's
every day
like
going into the locker room where I was like, fuck.
Yeah, it was. Especially when you talk of your sensitivity and being the guy pushed around and bullied, and it's that feeling of like, why is this happening? Why is it always me? And I think eventually, like, you just disassociate. Like,
did you ever flip it?
What do you mean?
So quick example, the listeners have heard this before, but when I went to college, because my dad would be like, you need to stand up for yourself. The one time I tried to stand up for myself, I got the shit kicked out of me by like the entire starting defense because I played offensive line.
Yeah.
And one guy like pushed me one day, and so he was smaller, Justin Stowe, I haven't forgotten, and I shoved him into the locker because I was like getting bigger at this point and stronger.
Yeah.
So he like just pushed me a little bit, and I shoved him into a locker, and then out of nowhere I got hit in the back of the head by another defensive player, and they just jumped me.
Yeah.
Basically just kicked it, and I remember I walked out of the locker room and walked through the portables sobbing, like crying.
Yes.
So fast forward a year and a half, I get to college, and I'm a preferred walk-on, which is basically just a partial scholarship at FAU. And I remember thinking to myself, I am not going to take anything from anybody. I'm starting over. And a lot of people talk about starting over, but I did it. I was in an elevator with a friend of mine that I had just met summer semester, went a little late, and we're in the elevator going up to her dorm room, and a bunch of these dudes get on, obviously athletes. Don't ask me why I said obviously. And they said, they were like, hey, because I was a bigger guy at this point too, and they're like, hey, are you one of the new football players? Like, are you on the incoming team? And I was like, yeah, that's why I came to FAU was to play football. And then one of them went, nah, man, you don't play football. And I was like, this is it. This is the moment where I have to change the narrative. And I turned to him and I said, bro, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Because bro was real big at that time.
I remember bro.
Yeah. And I was like, bro, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And he just looked at me and went, all right. And then they got off the elevator. And I was like, I did it. With that one thing, I had changed the whole narrative of my life. And it was true. I never got bullied again.
Yeah.
And then in my head, like, I would get into fights with teammates, but that's what you do. Until I got the scar on my forehead was drunkenly I got into a fight with a teammate, and I pulled a knife on him. All my teammates grabbed me, and I carved my face open, and I was like, I'll fucking kill you. Nobody ever fucked with me.
Yeah.
Ever again.
Well, no one fucks with the psycho.
Well, so for you, because of what we're talking about with the shame spirals and what you want to do on the inside, did you ever flip that switch? Did you ever turn to where you were like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do?
Yeah, it was gradual. It was like...
So yours wasn't like one moment you can point to.
No, because it was, I had to excavate it. It was so buried deep down. Basically at 12 years old is when I started a double life of like home was hell for me. The only way I could escape was in school, but school, I was so ashamed of me. It was like, people were laughing because I was just like a good-hearted, jolly kid. And then I found like Chris Farley. I remember watching like Mike Myers and Chris Farley and Will Ferrell, but it was really Chris Farley of like, oh, you can be the chubby, spastic weirdo and you can be the center. You can be the hero.
Yeah.
You can be the center of attention. You can be the hero. So it was like, fuck, I'm going to be this person. And that became my whole obsession. Like, I couldn't turn it off. And it wasn't until like 15, 16, 17 when it was like, okay, I can't turn this off. And it now feels like I'm stuck in this thing.
Yeah.
I've lost what it was. I don't even remember what it's like to be me anymore, or be healthy, or be happy in my skin. That's when I'd already started like drinking and like using drugs. And
How old were you when you first started drinking?
like 12.
That's such a common answer on this show.
Yeah.
I ask almost every single guest, and it's always
Yeah.
12 or 13. I didn't start drinking until I was like, sometimes it's like me, where it was a little bit later.
Yeah.
But I come from a family of people who like to drink and get after it and stuff. So I was always like, this is poison.
Yes.
And then when I actually tried it, I was like, oh, all my anxiety's gone. This is amazing.
Dude, it's so funny. The first time I drank, it was by myself alone. I was in 7th grade, and I wanted to text a girl that I liked her.
Yeah.
So I made myself a fucking screwdriver, and I had one, and you got that warm feeling.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I'm very
like,
familiar.
I'm going to have another one. And then I texted her, and she was like, I like you as a friend, but I had that warmth, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And then I just remember my mom was coming home, and I ate like 5 scoops of peanut butter, and then I just sat on the couch in bliss.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is incredible.
This is the greatest feeling
love
ever.
this feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And then when I started drinking, like, freshman year.
So from 7th grade to 9th grade, you didn't like do it again?
No, and because I was terrified.
Yeah.
I desperately wanted to be the good kid.
Yeah.
I wanted to be loved and liked so badly, so that like I would like try to hide and be secretive, but like I didn't want to do anything else that could jeopardize being
labeled as the troublemaker.
Yeah. Because I was already such the disruptor troublemaker at home. But so when I started drinking like freshman year, then it was just like straight to blackout.
Were you going to like parties and stuff as a freshman? Because I know you talked about like getting bullied and not being comfortable in your own skin, but with having the older brother and playing and being on the football team and stuff, because people always can't comprehend when I go, no, I was bullied a lot. And they go, yeah, but weren't you a football player? He goes, yeah, those were the worst bullies.
Yes, those were my friends.
Yeah, they were my friends. And then because I've even run into them after the fact, like many years later, like obviously before I moved to New York, but living in Florida, you'd run into them like at random places. You would never think you'd run into them. And they'd be like, oh, we were just having fun. And I go, I tried to like kill myself.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about having fun?
Yeah, and that's the funniest thing. I remember like when you and it's weird because it fucks with your mind, because like the people I love the most were the people who told me to like myself the least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like I remember like when you hang out with those type of guys, their sense of humor is so it's just bullying, but they convince you that like that you're wrong always. Well, they'll just be like, "Hey, Denham, you're a pussy," and I'm like, "Hey," and he's like, "It's a fucking joke."
Yeah,
because can you not take the joke?
It's almost like a gaslighting situation where they're like,
sure.
"Are you an idiot? Like we were just messing around," and you're like, well, my insides still feel hurt, but okay.
And then you try to do it the other way, and they're also so sensitive, but they're bigger or stronger, or they have the anger that I was unable to tap into. And I'm like, no, Owen, you're the pussy. And they're like, I'll punch you in the fucking face.
Yeah, that's the whole stand up for yourself, and then you get jumped by the whole starting defense, and you're like, this was a terrible idea.
Well, yeah, and my brothers primarily, but like everything, that was the core relationship that all other relationship with men was built off of.
Yeah.
So it's like, that was safety to me, was being unsafe.
Yeah.
Which obviously makes sense.
I say it all the time. I'm comfortable in chaos.
The most comfortable in chaos.
When everything's going right. Because this even when I first like tried to start getting sober, like when I first got out of rehab, I had everything on paper you could ever want, and then I was like, I need to start drinking again.
For sure.
And in my head, I rationalized it as like, oh, I overreacted going to
Yeah.
rehab at 25. But really, it's just I'm natural in my because I work in restaurants, which can get very chaotic, and I'm very good at it. Stand up can also be incredibly chaotic because you don't know what the audience, how they're going to react. Like everything in my life has been chaos. You know. Even as a child, like, you know, parents getting divorced and you're going here, you're going there. My ex-stepdad was a very violent person. Like, it's just a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm comfortable. And one of the hardest things coming up on 7 years sober now, one of the hardest things has been being okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay that it's not chaotic. It's okay you have a regular life.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes.
And in my head, I'm like, no, we got to smash this with a hammer. This is a little too quiet.
Or just like healthy chaos,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, you have a full life where you go to the gym and you go to a job and you hang out with normal, healthy friends and you do a hobby or a passion or like a career that you love and you're tired and that's it. And like it's fulfilling.
Yeah.
And in the back of my mind, I'm like, no, what the fuck is this?
Absolutely.
What the fuck is
What
this?
are we doing here?
Oh, I want to do something.
I don't have a warrant out for my arrest.
No.
Are we even living?
Yes, and in my mind, because I'm just like the stereotypical stoner, it's like I'm not productive unless I'm lying in my bed for 12 hours eating 2 pizzas at a time.
Yeah.
Like that's my idea
Two
of a good
pizzas
day.
at a time.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it. So you said when you got into 9th grade, the drinking picked up.
Yes, and it was blackout from the beginning.
Was this alone, or was this at parties, or with people, or?
It was with buddies primarily.
Okay.
I was the guy that was the funniest friend you could have in a classroom, in like a math classroom. But because I couldn't turn off, you wouldn't want me to a kissing party.
Yeah.
But I had my
kissing party.
A kissing party. So I had like my core group of guys, the guys on the football team, the linemen who like I loved like brothers.
Yep.
And we'd hang out and we'd fucking drink.
The hogs got to stick together, baby.
You have to. You start packing lips at 14. You start pounding Jack or anything, and it becomes a competition of like, no, you just have to drink it out of a red Solo cup.
Yeah.
And you can't
By
chase
itself.
it with anything. And then looking back, you're like, why the fuck was I blacking out so often? It's like, dude, because you were drinking it wrong.
Yeah.
It was so
That's
wrong.
the worst. And also, it's funny when you see people who just drink like casually,
Yes.
just because my brain doesn't compute it.
No, absolutely
People
not.
leave like will have like, oh, I'll take the 9-ounce glass of wine, then they'll drink like a third of it, and then they're like, yeah, we're gonna head out. And I'm like, you could have just ordered the 6-ounce. Like, what are we doing here?
Well, it's like someone who like stops a joint after a quarter and is like, I'm high. And it's like, you're not passed out, so you're not high.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You're not afraid that everyone is looking at you. You're not high.
When did you start smoking weed?
I started like 15 or 16. It was
Okay.
like freshman year was drinking, and every time I drank, like it was just bad. Where it's like
Yeah.
the first time I drank, I remember it was me and my 2 buddies having a sleepover on a school night, and we all had bottles of vodka, water bottles of vodka.
Okay.
Water
I
bottles.
thought you meant like you went
No,
out and
we
bought.
all had handles.
Yeah.
And we're all gonna get drunk. So like, I chug the water bottle immediately, and then they
That's
both
so
decide
much.
that they don't want to drink.
What?
Yes. So then it's just me fucking hammered, blackout. At one point, I get naked. I'm just running around, and then I like pass out on the toilet, and they think it's funny.
That
to
is
draw. It is.
objectively
It's
funny.
so funny. The picture. I wish we could find it. And they drew a perfectly symmetrical pair of balls and then a gigantic penis on my back.
Yeah.
And I woke up the next morning like not hungover because you're 14 and your body's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I go in and they have the picture and they're showing it to everyone and everyone's laughing, but I'm like, oh, it's laughing. That's good.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
I don't care if I'm the clown or I'm the butt of the joke as long as people are laughing.
100%.
Yes.
I think that's why I would put up with so much of the bullying was it's because like, oh, everyone's laughing at me. And then it's
Yes.
interesting because for me, it took a turn by the time I was like, I think a senior in high school. I started to bully like other people.
I became a bully as a senior too.
Because I was like,
lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, so I hit my growth spurt. I was a lot stronger, and like I would still get bullied by the kids on the football team. I would get bullied, but it was a lot tamer because all of the seniors left, and
Yeah.
it was like a lot of people where they'd bust your balls and stuff. But it's not like we were throwing hands in the locker room, so it kind of calmed down. And then I remember being so upset with how I was treated, I took it out on other people.
Of course. I feel like you should just name this episode "We Are the Same." Like this is. Yeah, it was the same thing. I'm the only person I know that when I smoked weed, I'd get ferociously angry.
Really?
Yes.
So this is something that you're starting at like such a young age. So this is all something that you like by the time like are you doing this stuff, drinking and doing and smoking weed? Are you doing this consistently? Like up until
I was drinking at first. It was weekends, but then it was like whenever I could fucking do it. But I was so sloppy that like it would always end up in me blacking out and me doing something that like would cause damage to a friend of like their parents busted us because of you.
Yeah.
Or like you're at school and I had to fucking
You drink at school?
Yeah. Yeah. Or yeah.
We're a long way from I don't want to be the troublemaker.
Dude. Well, it was at that point I'd run away kind of from my home and I was living by myself.
Okay. Where were you living at?
So my dad had an empty condo because they had divorced and he was out for a lot. So I ran away from my mom's. I had like a very tumultuous relationship with her and he was gone most nights. So starting at like 13, 14, I would go put myself to sleep alone. I would wake up alone and it would kind of just be me.
Yeah.
So when that happens, you're like, okay, I have no rules.
Yeah, I can do whatever I want.
I'm going to do whatever I want. And now, I have to perform at school. So I'm going to be the happiest fucking biggest goofball at school. And when you're draining with the fact of like, I don't have a relationship with any of my family, I feel like the biggest fuck up in the world. When you get home, it's just like, I need to numb all of this shit.
Yeah, I don't want to feel like this anymore.
I have to do this. So it became like medicinal almost immediately. And I had a friend who lived across the street with also like a fucked up family situation. So like drinking became unattainable or
across the street from your dad's condo?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it became unrealistic because I knew I couldn't keep it up to the amount that I wanted to.
Yeah.
And then I found pot as like a little later in the freshman year, and I was so goofy and I dumbed myself down so much because I'd been called dumb all my life and I started acting it.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was funnier.
You could get away with it. You
Yeah.
could get away with smoking weed because
Yeah,
that's
people just thought that was me.
Yeah.
They didn't know I was high. And I'm like, this is fucking perfect. So
Yep.
I was high all the time.
I have so many jobs where I would show up drunk like all the time
Uh-huh.
that they just were like, man, Brennan's always got so much energy.
Yes.
It's like, no, it's because I'm drunk and doing cocaine in the bathroom.
Denham must be sleepy because he's always passing out from like first to fifth period.
He's just sleeping the whole time.
So we do that and then got into like Adderall.
Okay, yeah, because again, you're younger than me, so Adderall was a big thing when you guys were.
Huge. And
Because I didn't get that until I was later in college.
Yeah.
When it started like really making the rounds.
My friend he got a prescription really early, and then that would be our thing. The first time we got weed, we ordered it off the dark web.
Get out of here.
At 14 years old, we had Bitcoins, and we had like 4 Bitcoins at one point because they were like $30.
Yeah.
And we spent all the Bitcoins on like Luke Skywalker Girl Scout cookies and like would have it delivered to us through like the fucking post office.
Through the dark web.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Kids today.
Crazy, dude.
So, do you end up going to college after high school?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
I went to Eastern Connecticut State University. It's the Yale of Connecticut universities.
There we go.
But I
So stupid.
who me?
No, what you just said.
What?
Me?
Huh?
After everything we've talked about.
What?
The Yale of Eastern Connecticut University.
Yeah, Eastern Connecticut University, the Yale of universities in Connecticut. But yeah, I barely got in there.
Were you a good student? I would imagine no, being
No,
messed up
so
all the
bad.
time. Yeah.
So bad.
I was bad before, because like I said, I didn't start drinking until later, but I was bad because I hated busy work, and I was a procrastinator.
I had no structure.
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone enforcing me to do homework.
Once I would come home, and like my dad would come home after work, and he had 4 kids, and he'd be like, "Did you do your homework?" And I realized at a very young age I could just go, "Yeah," and he'd go, "All right, good," and I was like, "Cool."
Well, that's what it was. And you
Time
are,
to play Halo.
You're also so charming,
You know, I really like that you said that.
You
Denham.
ruined it. Okay, it's never mind. Be yourself.
Some
do an
people think-
impression?
Sorry. Because I don't like to be complimented. It makes me very uncomfortable.
Okay, I get it. Okay, and to be honest, I just wanted to compliment myself, but I thought it would look bad if I said I'm so
You're
charming.
so charming, Denham.
Thank you. I'll take that all day, and I will glory in it. I will bathe in it.
This is something that we talk about a lot in sober circles, but like the lying thing, and I see it because I have a very young family member that might be my niece, but I won't want to say on the program, who she just like her go-to is to lie, which was mine when I was a kid. And I just realized like, oh, and that's why we talked about it earlier before the mics went on, but I try so hard now. Since I became cognizant of what lying can do, I've tried, like when I'm like, oh, this can actually hurt people, lying, I've tried so hard to be a man of my word. And I'm not always there. I'm not always perfect. And sometimes I'll do that like skeevy live omission thing where I'm like, well, if they just don't ask me about it, I'm not going to bring it up. So, which is still like, not good. But I try so hard now to be like, all right, I got to be a man of my word because I was so quick to just lie.
It's impulse. It's second nature because living in that fantasy, you disappear. It becomes more real than reality.
100%. So go ahead. I was going to ask.
What I was saying is just like I got through high school by basically learning how to go to my teachers and manipulate them with sad sob stories or be extremely likable.
Yep.
And they'd be like,
those are my two go-tos.
Yeah, you have a D, I'm going to move it to a C minus. Or like, you have a C, I'm going to move it to a C plus.
I remember
just being pushed through.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my best friend Will about this, where like I had this memory of me in high school as being like, I had no rules. Everyone loved me, and I showed up high all the time, and I'd walk into different like classrooms and perform and just be like, everyone knew my name and loved me, and I never got in trouble. And he's like, yeah, because they didn't care.
Yeah.
Because they just wanted you to get out. And I'm like, fuck, that's so much more.
Every time you did it, they're like, we only have 2 more years of this guy.
2
Just
more
stick
years.
it out.
God, this kid.
Yeah, because if you start getting in trouble, then all of a sudden you're getting held back, and then this becomes a thing. I remember that really hit home because this is something I don't think about a lot, but I remember my mom had a health scare like my junior year, I think it was. And it was something where it wasn't that big of a deal, but I am a catastrophizer. So I'm like, this is it. It's probably cancer. She's going to die. I told like my teammate, and at the time it felt real.
Yes.
Like I remember telling my teammates, like crying, telling the football team, like my mom's sick, blah, blah, blah. And then I used it against my teachers to manipulate them to like be like, I'm sorry I didn't do any of the work. I'm just dealing with a lot right now because of this. And I'll never forget, like, probably during the summer or something, it got back to my dad. Even though they were divorced, it had gotten back to him that like they were like, we know she's your ex, but how is she doing? Like, and he like was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, what? She said she had this. And he goes, yeah, that's not cancer, dude. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And you want to talk about shame.
Dude.
Having people bring it up like 3 or 4 years after, like I'd go home for the summer and I'd run into somebody and they'd be like, hey, remember that time you lied and told everyone your mom had cancer? And I was like, no, I didn't do that. I thought at the time that there was something wrong.
Dude, I feel that full body heat.
Yeah.
When you say that. And like I think my go-to is just shame. Like that for me, accessing being honest and just living in it, there is like a wall of shame that you have to pass through. Because like I was honest for a long time as myself, and every action I did was scrutinized and shamed for until it was completely internalized of like, no, you are shameful. you are sin.
Just you being you, yeah.
Yeah, and the amount of work that it's taken to get over that, it's so hard and painful.
Yeah.
But we got to get to entertaining things to
Lighten it up, baby.
Let's make this little podcast, your hobby, profitable. Let's make the fucking clones out there laugh. You're sheep. You're stupid sheep, and if you had stories like mine or emotional depth like mine, you'd be on this goddamn show.
Tell 'em.
But like and subscribe, please.
Leave a review. So you barely get into college,
Barely get into
but
college.
it's a great college to go to. Some say it's the Yale of Connecticut.
I would say that. And I've heard others say that. It's not just me. It's not just me. So
When you get there, are you living on campus?
Yeah. I'm a freshman. I'm in dorm. And before that, I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. So you're talking about that moment. I knew I had to make a change.
Yeah.
I knew I had to do something. So I lost a lot of weight, and I had this idea that I was going to kill off Fat Denham. That Chris Farley character, I'm going to kill him off, and I'm going to just try to be normal. And I'm going to give up smoking weed, and I'm going to be a productive, normal person who people can just like. And that was not even close.
How long did that guy live for?
Less than an hour, dude. I was fucking ripping grav bongs secretly in my dorm bathroom less than 20 minutes before after my mom dropped me off at college.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and like my roommates didn't even know for a while. I was just like
when you get there, because this is an interesting thing I love about when people first show up to college, especially when you live on campus. When you get there, you say you're going to change and do all this stuff. So you weren't like party time, parents are gone. You were trying to act like chill.
Well, dude, if you remember, parents were already gone. That was normal for me. I didn't grow up with rules or regulations.
That's true.
My house is where people sold fucking drugs out of.
Well, and it's interesting because like when people talk about like, oh, my parents dropped me off at college. Like my uncle took me to college. Like my parent, like I applied, I did all this stuff. Like my parents had nothing to do with me going to school. So it's interesting. I do understand that aspect, but you know, for the regular people out there, a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, now it's a party.
Well, that's what it was. Of like, I had all these roommates show up.
Yeah,
and a lot of them are like the oldest of their family or only child, and this is their first time on their own. And I'm like fucking Lieutenant Dan. I'm just like the grizzled veteran who's like, you're gonna learn, kid. You don't respect authority. These RAs don't know what they're talking about. You look them in the eye with confidence, and they won't suspect a thing. Like, is it? And
but you ain't got no legs.
I was supposed to die in that war, Gump. But yeah, no, I found the stoners because you seek each other out. And
so that was your thing in college? You weren't back into drinking?
Nah, man, because that
was a very stoner
every
answer.
time.
Nah,
man. What you mean, brother? Every time I drink, I blacked out, and when I blacked out, I didn't get angry. I got sad. Yeah. I got sloppy and weepy.
Yep.
And it was disgusting.
Yep.
And the amount of shame of waking up and being like, oh, did I punch someone in the face? No, you cried.
Yeah.
You cried really hard.
You wept openly.
Dude, you drooled in Jenny's hair. And then you said, do you want to get pizza sometime? And I'm like, fuck me. Did I? Please tell me I did something cool. And they're like, well, you did poop yourself. And it's like, oh. Sick. So then I got high and I could eat as much as I wanted to, and at that time I wanted to be a professional eater. I thought I was gonna be like Adam, what's his name? Richmond. Yeah. That was my dream career. I'm like, I'm just gonna be the guy that eats.
Yeah.
So I'm like, pot will help me with this, and I got to college after losing the weight, and I'm like, I'm gonna try to be cool and a real student. And after not being a student for the past 6 years, I would sit down and try to do like a chapter of like, and I was a psychology major at like a very easy state school, and my brain was just like, stab it.
Really? So you just couldn't?
No, and I'd spent so much time being high. That was my new homeostasis. So like, that was the first time I really experienced when I was like 18 or 19. trying to stop and having the mental effects of it is now so loud up here.
Yeah.
It is so loud, and I'm acutely aware of the buzzing and the feeling, and it makes me want to smash my head against stone.
Yeah.
And it's so what's the word? It's so unmanageable that like fuck, I need to go back to getting high. I need to suppress. I need to push it. I'm too scary.
Yeah, there is that moment where you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've heard the phrase, you can't live with it, you can't live without it. Oh, you're looking at the notes for the.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Do you want to? You did send me some stories.
Well, I queued up one. I got drunk. They drew a dick on my back. The
Yeah.
next day, I got called into the nurse, and it was
Oh,
scoliosis.
that's what the Sharpie dick is.
Yeah, so I had.
I didn't even put two and two together.
It's okay. We were on a roll.
We were.
It was scoliosis testing the next day. So she lifted it up, and she's like this very cute 72-year-old. Shout out to like Mrs. O'Laris. And
Well, she's dead now, but
for sure. Yeah. Who knows?
no, that's true. This was only 10 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Maybe she's alive. She's probably not. But like
82. You think Miss O'Leary made it to 82?
if you saw the swelling on her ankles,
Probably not.
she's not alive. But she.
What did she say about
She
your
was
dick?
so sweet. She just like she tapped my back, so she's tapping the dick, and then she goes, "Honey, you might want a shower." And that's the only thing she says.
Oh man.
And then that was it. And then
What happened with the cops?
the cops. So I dropped out of college at that point.
Okay. How long were you there?
2.5 semesters. So I was a junior. Dropped out, convinced I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to be a comic at this point. And I am currently working like 6 months at The Notch, which shout out to The Notch is the fucking...
Huge shout out to the Notch.
Yeah, Cheshire, Connecticut. It's this like convenience breakfast spot.
Okay.
Right across the street from my dad's condo complex.
Had you tried to do any stand-up?
I had done it twice.
Okay, because you had mentioned the Chris Farley thing. Because normally I always ask people about their origin story into stand-up, but obviously you're younger, so you could just Google like open mics or something like that, or what? Yeah, what was your?
I'm not a go-getter.
You don't say.
Hey, that hurt.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I forgive you. Please love me. So I wanted to do these things, but I'm too terrified to actually have the initiative to do any of it. But I got to college. I got into theater. Okay. And that was my first foray into like, okay, now I have the freedom of doing what I kind of want. After theater, I dropped out, and the thing was like, I'm going to do improv. So on the weekends, I took improv class, and then a friend of mine was like, in a part of Connecticut, there's open mics if you want to go.
Got it.
And on a whim, he picked me up. I had no material. So from the Notch, I had like a package of chicken salad sandwich.
Love a chicken salad sandwich from the Notch.
So good. It was just chicken salad, Waldorf, with the craisins. And
love it.
Walnuts? Well, of course.
You got to.
Saffron.
Right? Get out of town.
Dude,
we got to go to this
spot.
It's the
best. I would take you in an instant. I'll meet you. I'll introduce you to Frank. He's the 70-year-old stoner owner it was passed down by his grandpa.
Really?
Dude, fucking, it's the best place ever. You just work with like 40-year-old women who are flirting with you and also complaining about how shitty their husbands are.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Sue.
What up, Sue?
Dude, love Sue. So it was just like a 20-year-old's dream. But I went to this open mic at this shitty bar and
eating chicken salad.
That's what I did. I got up on stage. I said, I just dropped out of school. I have no material. Probably should have written something. And then I pulled chicken salad out of my pants and stared at the audience and just ate chicken salad while mean mugging them like fucking Andy Kaufman shit. And
5 minutes of that, huh?
Just 5 minutes.
Whew.
They loved it.
They did?
They loved it. Yeah. Dude, you wouldn't love it if you saw a guy pull chicken salad out of his pants? Come on.
Especially pulling it out of your pants. I'd be like, the fuck is going on?
And I like kind of set it up where I asked the bartender to like come and bring me a spoon. And then he walked back. I'm like, could you bring me a fork? And then he walked back. I'm like, can you bring me a napkin? At this point, the people in the bar were like, what the fuck are you doing? You're just abusing this poor bartender. And then I pulled it out, and it broke the tension. So, like, that was fun.
You knew what you were doing before you even knew what you were doing.
Dude, that was what I studied in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true, actually, with all of the Chris Farley stuff and everything.
That was my playground. That was just social experiment of how do I explore tension and awkwardness. So I did that a lot. But back to the cops thing, I'll make a long story short. My little brother, my best friend who I love, he's one of us, and he has like mental illness. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple summers back to back once he got into college of like having drug related psychosis that would lead into mania. Mm-hmm. And the second summer that he was dealing with that, I was getting back from work all day at the Notch. And I had like a weed pen, and I'd smoked myself into like comatose on the couch. He comes home and he sees me naked on the couch, passed out, and he's pretty sure I'm high on heroin. So he wakes me up, and I go, "What's up, man?" He's like, "What's going on, man?" And I'm just like, "Let me put on clothes. I'll take you out to lunch. We'll talk." I go upstairs and I have a journal out. At that point, I'm doing like artist way, like free flow writing, and I've like written a shitty poem that's like, "I was a tiger that was in a cage, and now I'm no longer. Now you shall see my claws." And he reads this as a guy on Mania, and he's like, "Holy shit, he's going to kill me."
Yeah.
And I come downstairs, and he runs out. And I call him, and he's like, I'm like, where are you? And he's like, "I'm scared of you, dude." So I'm like, okay. And I go, I'm like, fuck, this sucks. But I go for a walk. The sunset is coming down in like a picturesque Connecticut suburb. I'm smoking heavy my weed pen. I'm probably like 10 minutes from home when my dad calls me, and he goes, you got to come back home. I'm like, why? What's up? And he's like, well, your brother's called the cops. Told them that you're high on heroin, you have a gun, and you're suicidal.
What?
And I say, "Dad, could you please inform the cops that is not the truth?" And he says, I don't want to do that because then that means I would have to tell them that your brother is ill and quite possibly on drugs, and they would go after him. And in that situation, there might be guns or violence, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what does that mean for me? And he's like, you should probably get home because they're waiting for you.
Wow.
So I walk, like, and now I have the fucking weed pen, so I just store that in the old taint.
Yeah.
And I'm walking back, and I'm, like, trying to sober up as fast as fucking possible. And I'm like, I'm going to have maybe 5 seconds to get home. I show up, sure enough, there's, like, 3 cop cars.
Yeah.
There's, like, 5 cops just standing out, looking at me, hand on hips, and I just go, "Hey guys, how are you? I'm not high on heroin. I'm not suicidal. I don't have a gun. My brother is very ill." And they go, "What?" And I look at my dad, and my dad's shaking my head, and I'm like, "Fuck you. I'm not going down
like this.
I'm like, okay, this is an example. You know that dent in the car? You know that dent in the door? Those are my brother. He's very sick." And I talk him down, and they're like, "Okay, we're going to have to find your brother." And my dad just, like, shakes his head in disappointment. I'm like, fuck off. And 2 of the cops go away. My dad goes inside, and then there's one cop, and he calls me over, and I'm like, "How can I help you, officer?" Yeah. And he goes, "Why didn't your dad, like, say anything? That was weird." And I'm like,
protecting him.
That's when I realized I was still really fucking high. Because I go, "Oh, I don't know. He probably thought that, like, you would go and find my brother, and there'd be, like, some standoff, and you pull out your gun and, like, shoot him." And this was in, like, 2018, 2019. Like, this is when, like, shootings were happening a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tension with the cops.
Yeah.
And he goes, "That's silly. We would never do that." And I go, Yeah, of course I know that. My little brother's white. And he goes, "Excuse me?"
I just spit takes and then spill water everywhere. I should have seen that coming.
And at that point,
So
I'm
just
like,
high out of your
I'm
mind.
so
You go,
fucking high. I need to get out of this conversation now. Yeah.
oh man, dude, you got to come back on. You still got a couple more stories we got to talk about.
Yeah, man. I feel this was really fun. I feel like we had more of a conversation than a podcast.
Yeah,
but
that's the point.
I'm okay with that.
That's what we're doing here, baby.
It turns out the two of us could probably just be friends.
We are friends.
Are we?
Yeah.
Have we hung out besides
I
this?
give you a big hug every time I see you. That's friend level.
That's friendly level, but we're both big, friendly, gentle giants. What's the difference between friendly and friend?
To me, because I'm an introvert.
Are you an introvert?
Oh, 100%.
That's so surprising because I'm also introverted scale.
I'm an extroverted introvert. I have to be extroverted
I'm
for like
the
work
same
and
way.
stuff and
Yeah.
all that. But I don't go like hang out. I talked about this on the last episode. I don't go just like hang out with friends. Like I don't like if someone's like when I go to the comedy clubs, I have a lot of friends there.
Yes.
And we hang out and do the comedy hang.
Yes.
But it's not like I'm calling someone up like, hey, do you want to get dinner? Like I have one of my closest friends in New York, Scott Sandlin, shout out. He's been on the show a bunch. He's one of my best friends, and we get dinner like once every 6 months. Like I don't do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that it's similar. For someone to hang out with me, they probably have to call me like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like even tonight, like I told our friend, I think she's our mutual friend, Katie Blunt. She's shooting her half-hour
Katie
special.
Blunt. She's shooting her half blunt.
Yeah, her half blunt. She's shooting her half-hour special. It's at West Side Comedy Club. It would have been shot 3 weeks ago by the time you all are listening to this.
On YouTube. It's
But
gonna be
it's,
put up.
I think that's what she's doing. But it's at 9:00. But again, she's a very close friend. I love Katie, but I'm also like, fuck.
Dude, do you hate a party?
Hate a party.
Hate a party.
Hate a party.
Hate a party so much.
I'm the guy who sits in the corner, and then everyone will like come and talk to me,
Yes.
and I'm like, okay.
I just have to turn off. I have to just be like, okay.
This is why before we got sober, this is why drinking was so
Yes.
important, because I would have to get fucked up
Yes.
to be able to enjoy the party.
Now I go full character, and a lot of the times people think I'm drunk.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
People all the time tell me, like, if I didn't know you were sober, I would think you were fucked up all the time.
Abso-fucking-lutely, dude.
See, we are friends.
We are friends.
Dano, I can't believe. Look at us.
Yes.
Look at us.
Yes.
And also, I have like one of my best friends from college who is the antithesis of the show, Daniel Bearcat. He's been on the show before too. But again, same thing. Like we won't talk for like 6 or 8 months, and then he'll text me and be like, "Hey, I saw this thing. It reminded me of you," or like, "Hey, what do you like?"
That
you know what I
is
mean?
me
Like
and my
that's how
best
I
friend.
am.
Yeah.
Like Tracy, my girlfriend, she like still has friends from like middle school, elementary school, high school, college, and they like make plans like every couple of weeks. Like we're gonna meet here, we're gonna do this, and I'm like, that sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
It does. Sorry. For those of you watching, Tracy just got home. We got to end the podcast. Tracy, this is Denham. Denham, that's Tracy.
Nice to meet you.
Plug everything one more time and we'll get out of here.
Book me and Sean on your show. You won't regret it. Bye.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening at Brennan T. Comedy on all social media. BrennanTComedy.com. Check out Brennan in the Broken Toys Showcase at Grove 34 on November 20th. Get your tickets now. Talk to y'all next week.
This was lovely.
Thank you.